Hello, world. We are back, season 3, episode 4 of the Hoop Talk podcast. This is episode 2 of since the season has commenced. Um, Once again, a lot has happened in the week we've been gone. John D, how has your week been since we last saw each
77's
other?
back, life is normal again. Austin Reeves, I can't say much. Still speechless with
Yeah, you
Austin
told
Reeves
me
right
you
now.
guys will go what 0-5. That's what you said. We might go
Yeah,
0 and
yeah,
5
yeah.
without Luca. Yeah, how'd that go?
Maybe again, I'm big enough to say I was wrong. I'm also all the way off of the trade Austin Reeves boat. All the way off. Had to jump off that joint. They almost got me in shackles over there. But I got up out of there, Lakers, man. What, we're 4-2 now? 4-2, 5-2, one of those. And we don't even have our third best player yet. So it is what it is.
I heard that. Um, Anyway, this is not a Lakers show. This is not a Lakers show. Um, Today I wanted to talk about something that's been going around in terms of just the state of the NBA right now, the talent level, what the future holds. Not like the face of the league stuff that people want to talk about, or what does the league look like post Bron, Steph, KD, and them, but more so just appreciate what we have going on in our league. Well, not our league, in the league um right now, and mainly focusing on the pinnacle of that, although the talent does go a lot deeper than the guys we're going to talk about today. But I did want to spend today just focusing on the guys who have probably got the most attention, rightfully so, this season. And that is the typical top 5 guys that you've heard floating around this year, whether that be Shea, Luka, Giannis, Victor Wembanyama, or Nikola Jokic. And I just wanted to talk about all of those guys, each of their individual claims to be the best in the world, what makes them so special. And then we'll see where the conversation goes from there. This is kind of a improv episode where there's not much structure to it. We don't have um a list of things we want to cover. We more so just want to talk hoop. See what I did there. But yeah, that's it. So John D, I'm gonna give you the floor. You can choose which of the 5 players you want to start with and where you want to go with it, and I'll just follow your lead. Who do you want to talk about?
Well, I kind of want to talk about the guy that can't go unnoticed when he's on the floor, Victor Wembanyama. So far, he's averaging about 30 points per game, 15 rebounds, and 6 stocks per game. There was a few concerns that I had with his game coming into the season that slowly but surely are starting to go away. The ball handle was something I thought would have to be toned down a little bit, just because of the turnovers and how high the ball is up when he does dribble. But he really has changed his balance and how low he gets down to the floor to make it harder to poke the ball away. And then defensively, I like what the San Antonio Spurs do. I think it's like a high risk, high reward type of play where they don't collapse as much when they get dribble penetration. I remember watching the Pelicans. Zion Williamson, one of the best half court drivers in the league, getting downhill the way he wasn't really commanding 3 or 4 bodies or 3 bodies like he usually would. San Antonio usually just park within the passing lanes and make it easier to make interior passes or kick out passes when Victor Wembanyama's on the floor. And I think that's very impactful with how they can generate turnovers. So far, the San Antonio Spurs have the lowest opponent rim percentage at 56%. They also give up the 4th most mid range shots and like one of the lowest percentages at like 35% a game. So I think that's like the base of a really good defense, and that's based around what Victor Wembanyama can do, just taking away the rim almost completely. Teams are extremely under league average around the rim, and that gives you a really nice defensive floor, especially in the postseason. Especially when we look at some of these teams in the Western Conference who don't go to the rim or don't who have to go to the rim because they can't shoot, or some teams who just don't generate rim pressure at all. So I think Victor Wembanyama has been really good. He's gotten a lot better out of the post with his footwork and just establishing open shots and how his wingspan is and how he's able to create open shots continuously. This is somebody who is the best defender on the planet, and at this point is a top 10 scorer in basketball, just with the added strength, shot making. The catch radius is ridiculous. I think Dylan Harper, he's starting to realize, like, hey, there's a 7'5" guy on the court that plays for my team. I don't really have to be too accurate with these lob passes. As long as it's in the vicinity, it may not be a turnover. So the more time we get with Wemby playing, I think it's going to get easier and easier and easier, just being able to give him the ball, being able to get him passes in the post, or allowing him to run curl screens on the perimeter and already attack slanted defenses, not only slanted centers where majority of them shouldn't be playing out of the perimeter, but now have to. The things Wemby does as a center, not any other center in the league can do on the perimeter. And the way he's able to attack guys on the perimeter creates rim pressure. It creates really good looks, and he's getting better as a passer. So I don't know how many other players in league history have had a legitimate best in the world case at 21 years old. And I think Wemby's is like clear.
That's a good question. How many people have had a best in the world case at 21? We'll talk about that a little bit. Wemby is weird. I think he's probably the most interesting of the players we're going to talk about today. Because he's the only one whose defensive impact is stronger than his offensive impact. So that already makes him unique. Also because he's got me questioning what the limits of defensive impact are in today's game. I've always been a strong proponent of offensive impact is going to outweigh defensive impact pretty much all the time. But what I'm watching Wemby do to offenses has me questioning, like, how far can he toe that line with the modern confines of the rules? And how, to your point, you brought up the rim percentages, the mid-range frequency, pretty much all because of him. And then the offensive leap he's taken this year is kind of catapulted it. Last year, I had him as, like, assuming health, he was the 5th or 6th best player in the world, probably 6th for me. Well, 7th if you factor in Embiid, but we'll leave him out for this conversation. So 5th or 6th, probably 6th. But he was a tier below the guys I would consider 1 through 4, 1 through 5, factor in Embiid. But now I think he's firmly cemented himself in that group with the other 4 guys we're going to talk about today, in part because he's become better defensively. He's more disciplined in pick and roll coverages. His rim protection is still second to none. In fact, I would argue he's the best rim protector since Dikembe. Is there anyone
He's building a real case for being one of the best of all time. Like, I'm done comparing him to other rim protectors in the league. Like, I'm sorry, I'm past that point.
Yeah, maybe I'm disrespecting Rudy. Maybe I'm disrespecting Dwight, Tim Duncan. Those are probably the only 3 I'd consider. And then before that, obviously, you got Dikembe and then Hakeem.
Yeah.
And then you go back further and Wilt and all of them. But like that, he's an all-time defensive. He's all-time defensive company. And then offensively, the passing development, the turnovers being as low as they are, definitely something that I was concerned about this season. To start the season, I was wrong about how much he was going to turn the ball over. Let's call a spade a spade. But to be fair,
yeah, I mean,
A, he was turning the ball over crazy in preseason, but B, because of his dimensions and the way he's built physically, he can just do things that logically should lead to turnovers, but they don't because of the things he can do. And I didn't foresee that, and that's my fault, whatever. But like times where he's driving from the 3-point line downhill, and then he's picking up his dribble once the nail help comes, but is still able to take one step and get to the basket. Like that shouldn't be possible for like pretty much any other human. But because of he's 7'28" and has arms as long as 2 humans combined, it makes those things possible, which means even the bad things he does aren't bad because he can do things that make up for it. Like even when he's not fundamentally sound on defense, he's able to get back in a play, recover, block a shot, alter a shot, or just deter the shot just by existing and being a threat. Like these are things that shouldn't be possible, but they are possible with him. And I think the ceiling is even higher this season, not looking long term. He's only shot 27% on catch and shoot jumpers to start the year.
Exactly.
I think that's gonna go up. Like, I'm not saying he's gonna be 50%, whatever, but if he's making his catch and shoot jumpers at a reasonable clip, along with the improvements in the post game and the isolation game that you've alluded to, he has a very strong claim to be the best player in the world on the strength of defensive impact. And I don't think that's been true since KG, Tim Duncan,
Yeah.
one of
Yeah.
those two.
Yeah. Because if we look at people who've been like impacting the game as high as they haven't really had the offensive they really haven't had the offensive game to match with the defensive impact to be best in the world, also while not having a LeBron in the league. So like I think you can who was the player I was just thinking? Like Dwight was top, like high in the league, but nobody ever considered him best in the world based off of his defensive impact. But he also had a really solid offensive game as well. But it wasn't to the point where it was like, oh, this could be best in league conversation. So yeah, I think with just him being a better scorer, like that really cements the case for me, because there's gonna come a time where it's like there's not a real answer, because my biggest concern with him last season, especially early last season, one, the stamina, which I think has gotten a lot better this year. But the stamina, him being tired and him not being able to attack mismatches as much, especially with his handle being the way it was and him not being as strong. Now you can see the handle has gotten a lot better. He's absorbed contact very well. Especially like going against guys like Anthony Davis, who has been playing the five for years now and came into the season with more or heavier than he was in recent years. And just him being able to initiate contact and get to where he wants on the floor. And then once he gets to where he wants on the floor and he's comfortable, it's really hard to contest that jump shot. So that's where he's gotten better at. And then he's already the best defender on the planet, which impacts the game so much, especially for this Spurs defense. So I do think that's where he's going to lay his case, that we haven't seen this level of defensive impact from a player so young, and the way he's able to take away the rim and what that possibly can do in a postseason series against a lot of teams in the Western Conference. Like there's not a lot of teams that are like, for example, Houston can go cold from three. Dallas, best offense in the league, Houston right now, by the way, but Houston can go cold. I don't know what to think about Dallas right now. I don't know what to think about Memphis right now. But basically, teams can go cold, and then you're going to rely on getting to the rim continuously against a Victor Wembanyama. And it's not like when he's off the floor, the rim protection goes down, of course, but they still have a good rim protector in Luke Cornett, who they can bring in or play together, because Wemby's running pick and rolls as a ball handler with Luke Cornett, or they're running inverse pick and roll with Wemby. Um, I've seen them use Devin Vassell's screen for Victor Wembanyama off the ball against against the Raptors, where he made that 360 layup at 7-5. I don't yeah, I don't think there's been a lot of players in basketball where every single game you're wondering like, how is this possible as a human? Not even as a basketball player, but as a human, how are you able to move like this? I've seen tall guys, like people don't understand that. One, I don't think it's really close. The NBA has the best athletes all across the world. I don't think
I
that's
agree.
really close. But then when you look at taller guys, like normal tall guys, which is this isn't even, they're clumsy. Like when they run, it looks like they're clumsy. Like tall guys, a lot of tall guys are clumsy. I had a when I was in boot camp, I had a shipmate that was 6'8", and he was clumsy. He was the slowest guy in the division. And it's like he didn't know what to do. And it's like I used to get so mad at him, because like, why you ain't playing at Duke? Like, why are we not at Duke? But I had to understand, like, that's not something that's normal. Like, tall guys aren't supposed to be this fluid and this agile and be able to look like they're breaking their ankles every time they go for a fadeaway, or every time they make footwork or post moves. It looks like they're breaking something, but no, it's just the angles that he uses, and I think it's crazy. I think it's crazy to say.
Yeah. Before we move off of Wemby, I think he probably, if I had to guess, he probably has the weakest current claim to be the best player in the world of the guys we're talking about. But I do still think he has a claim. That obviously starts with the defensive side of the ball. He's obviously better than all of the guys we're going to talk about, and it's by a significant margin. Um, I don't. Maybe I'm falling victim to recency bias, which is possible, but am I way off base? And I'm not saying I hold this opinion. Am I way off base if I say he's as good, if not better, than a peak Draymond Green on defense, than a peak Anthony Davis, than a peak Rudy Gobert? Am I way off base for saying that, even though he's in year 3 or whatever that he may be in? Is that just outlandish?
I'm comparing him to like historical peaks because what we're watching isn't something that can be compared to like the field around him. I'm looking at Wemby and saying, okay, this guy can play at levels that we've seen all-time greats play at with his ability to take away the rim. And some of it doesn't even cover, or a lot of it isn't covered by the stat sheet. Like, you're not gonna see a steal from Wemby where he's blocking off like one side of the floor and it makes passing angles much harder. That's what I was like alluding to earlier when I said like the Spurs don't collapse much. They don't collapse. They don't send multiple bodies to the rim once they get rim pressure. They're like, okay, if we can get solid positioning, we're gonna send 2 guys to the rim, and the other 3 are gonna play the gaps. Like, now I know that can be very like risky because the other 3 guys could be watching the ball and then it's like a slot cut easy. But then if he slot cuts, you're sending him right to the best rim protector in basketball. So it's like, I think a lot of the stuff doesn't even come up on the stat sheet, what he does in the half court or what he does in transition now that he's able to play the minutes that we've seen. So I'm not comparing him to anybody in the league right now. Obviously, there's still a lot of really good defenders, but what Wemby's doing right now, I would look at it from a lens of, okay, how does he compare to peak Draymond, or how does he compare to peak Rudy Gobert? And I don't even think like he's gotten better. He has gotten more disciplined, but these guys at their peak levels have had some of the best discipline. When we look at peak Tim Duncan and his discipline defensively, or peak Rudy Gobert, how disciplined he was in drop coverage, I don't think Wemby is as disciplined as those guys were. But when you have that length and wingspan and you're able to shut off so much of the floor, like how hard it is to score when Wemby's at the elbow, because it takes one step to rotate to the rim or one step to really contest a jump shot at the 3-point line. He's taking away majority of the floor. So I don't think it's crazy to compare him to them at all, or to like make an argument that he has peaked higher in his 3rd year.
Because these are when we talk about AD and Draymond and Rudy, Draymond is a guy who I had as the 3rd best defensive player of the 21st century. You had him as the 3rd best defender of the 21st century when we did our list of Hoop Benny. Shout out to Hoop Benny and Sean, Tyler and Sean. And we're saying he might have already got to that level or surpassed it. That means we're approaching Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, Ben Wallace, whoever else you want to throw into these talks. When you have that much impact on one side of the ball, and then you combine that with some of the best scoring gravity in the league, this is someone who is drawing closeouts beyond the 3-point line, guys jumping on his up fakes. Then he has some of the best roll gravity in the league, leading to wide open shots for his teammates. He's a willing and decent passer who sees the floor. And he's a great scorer who gets to the free throw line 10 times a game to start this early season. It's kind of hard to understand like that level of that impact. And it's especially hard because we haven't seen it in a playoff setting. We haven't seen it when teams try to remove him away from the rim, if that's possible to remove him away from the rim. We also haven't seen him with elite guard play. We haven't seen him with someone who, no disrespect to Dylan Harper, no disrespect to Stephon Castle, no disrespect to Chris Paul of last year, but we haven't seen him next to someone who also commands their own level of attention that should, in theory, free him up. So maybe we haven't even seen a maximized Wemby offensively, but this is someone who just creates shots for his teammates with or without the ball, is a monster in transition on both sides of the ball. is really dominant in the half court, drawing fouls, not settling for threes, but drawing closeouts. This Wemby guy's pretty good, man. And your question about have we ever seen a 21-year-old be the best player in the world? The best you'd get is probably Kareem in college. Like, he just wasn't in the league, but he might have been the best player in the world. Other than that, I don't think so. Unless there's someone I'm forgetting. I don't think I'm forgetting anyone though. So like, and I'm not saying Wemby is the best in the world, but like the fact that he even has a claim at 21 years old, and we can see avenues for improvement or whatever the case may be. It's scary hours, but is there anything else you want to say about Wemby before we talk about someone else?
This may lead right into who we're talking about next, but friend of the channel, Carson, asked who would you rather have for the future, Chet and Shea or Wemby and Dylan Harper? I think if we're projecting how good Dylan Harper will be, I think this makes this conversation very interesting. And the reason I would lean Spurs, I don't know, man. That is a tough question. I don't know. I think I would lean San Antonio though. And that has to be with Dylan Harper being as good as I think he can be.
I think he's a franchise god. I said that a couple days ago.
Yeah, I said it.
Yeah.
I don't want to be, because I feel like quietly I have a De'Aaron Fox hater tag on my chest. I don't want to be known as a De'Aaron Fox hater, and I don't want to jump the gun too early. What are we doing? We don't need De'Aaron Fox. I'm gonna say it low. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say I'm a whisperer. Y'all don't need De'Aaron Fox for real, man. Yeah. Memphis might need.
I'm gonna stay away from that. I'm gonna stay away from that one. But to be fair, I'm really high on Chet. I remember. And obviously it looks like I'm gonna be wrong. So take this with a grain of salt. But I said I thought Chet's ceiling was higher than Shea's a couple years back. Now obviously we've seen the heights Shea ascended to and got to. So saying Chet's ceiling is higher than that.
Hey, I'm gonna say this right now, man.
That's how high I was on Chet.
If Chet can put together what I see from him offensively consistently, that's like, oh, that's a top 10 player in the league. With what he brings defensively, being the second best or third best rim protector in basketball. And one, I still like how he's able to relocate in the half court and be a play finisher. But then you add the ability to attack closeouts, hit mid-range shots, hit 3-point shots. Shea does not saying we'll move on to him soon, but Chet does have a really high ceiling. It's just about putting it together consistently on the offensive end. So
yeah, I'm gonna just say I was wrong on that one, but I am still high on Chet's ceiling is the overall point of that. But it seems like you do want to talk about Shea. He is the reigning MVP, reigning Finals MVP, reigning scoring champ. From an accolades perspective, he crossed every box last year. He's now going into this season. He's averaging 34. OKC are about to be 7-0, dealing with a litany of injuries that similar to what they were dealing with last year. And Shea just finds a way to be effective. And he probably does it in the least. How do I word this? He probably does it in the least 2025 way of all of them. And what I mean by that is he isn't stuffing the box score with points, rebounds, and assists. He's not doing it with high volume threes. He's doing it in a way that is more reminiscent of the superstars from 15, 20 years ago, where they do what they do, but they do it so well that ultimately it just maximizes your team. And I think I'm higher on Shea than most. I don't know. I want to hear you talk about Shea. I want to know where you stand because I think this Shea guy is pretty good. So what do you think about Shea?
First off, I do want to say, I don't know if we've gotten to this point in basketball, but I think people are somehow, some way, discrediting just the ability to put the ball in the basket and how it's not as valuable for somebody that can floor raise with their scoring. I think that's what Shea does, and it makes him one of the best offensive engines in the league for that reason. Um, just basically being able to get to the rim, having some of the best balance. And I think another thing that makes Shea underrated is, or not underrated, but some things that people underrate about Shea is his athleticism. It's not going to be the run, jump, and dunk type athleticism, but the craft and the balance and the change of speed. And I think it really helps his ball handle, and that's why he's not able. That's why he's not as turnover prone as some people, or as other people in the league. I think the way he absorbs contact and is able to keep the ball in his hand and just keep the ball live and be able to get to his spots is really underrated. He's been one of the best isolationists and pick and roll ball handlers in basketball over the past few seasons. Very underrated floor raising season with OKC. Just being able to just to be able to give you so much offense to where you can go all defensively slanted lineups with him on the floor. Like, again, another thing, people discredit Shea because they look at the Thunder's defense, when the reason is there's not a lot of offensive players in basketball who can give you that much offense to where you can go all defense around them, where you can go Caruso, Dort, Kaysen, and Ihart in the same lineup and win basketball games and still have a relatively good offensive rating, or relatively good minutes with him on the floor. So I am very high on SGA. The only thing, or one of the things I really don't like is, like, in the beginning of the season, he gets like, or not even in the beginning of the season, I just think Shea thinks he's way better of a 3-point shooter than the rest of the world thinks he is. Even in this past Pelicans game, they called it a foul, so the shot didn't count. But he pulled up from damn near the logo.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yo, I swear he thinks he's a better shooter than the rest of the league thinks he is, because he be pulling. It be some games where he's just pulling. And other than that, though, I think Shea is a really good floor raiser, and he does that with his scoring, even in like pick and roll opportunities where they're blitzing the pick and roll, and he still finds a way to split it. As soon as he splits the pick and roll, it's 5-on-3 every time. It's like, okay, here you go, iHeart and Chet baseline cut lob, or here you go, Lou Dort wide open for 3. Like, that's not going to show up in the box score, but that's continuously creating advantages for an offense that is limited without him on the floor. So I think Shea's really good. And again, I think my argument for Shea to be the best in the world is how you can create an all-time defense based off the fact that he already provides so much offense that you can go full defense with your roster and create one of the best defenses the world has ever seen, based off of how good he is offensively and how much he can bring the rest of the team in by creating advantages as a scorer. So I think that would be my argument for Shea. I still think there are a few guys with a couple of guys with a better argument, but that would be my argument for Shea. Yeah, that would be my argument.
Yeah, I think I want to start by saying I think as basketball fans, NBA fans, I think a lot of people make it seem like these things are more clear cut than I think they are, or than they are in reality. But I'll stay with how I think they are, because it's not objective either way. But like, I think the reality is these guys are really just close. And like, even beyond these top 5, like, I don't think there's that much separation between like the 22nd best player and the 42nd best player. Like, I just think we're at a point where the league is so talented that a lot of it can come down to just team construct, coaching, schematics, and then just opponent. Like, the 42nd best player might be better against X team than the 27th best player, but then the 27th best player might be better against Y team. That, like, all of these guys are just really close in my opinion. So that's my initial just statement. But on to Shea, I think he is such a good scorer. And this is going to sound weird, I guess. I think he's so good at scoring that people don't understand how he can be so impactful without having like the S tier playmaking that some of the other guys have. And the reason I think, and I'm not saying he's the best scorer in the league, maybe he is, maybe he isn't, but because of the way in which he scores and the way that raises the floor of your team, the way that maximizes the roster construction you can put around him, because he can handle the ball pretty much all game but not turn the ball over, because he can single-handedly win the possession battle because he has the ball the whole game but also gets like 2 or 3 steals a game. So when you have a guy like Shea, I want to like make sure I get this right. Shea this year is averaging 2 turnovers a game. He's averaging 2.5 stocks a game, and I'm pretty sure his deflections are higher than that. Last year, Shea averaged 2.4 turnovers and averaged 2.7 stocks, and this is all the while being a heliocentric player for all intents and purposes. I could look up the time of possession numbers, but I'm pretty sure this year he ranks very highly. Then not to mention just being a good defender, and actually he started this season off really good on defense. So being a really good defender where you're not limiting your roster construction to where, oh, we need good defenders to protect Shea. Is we can put Shea in these defensive lineups and he's also good, so we don't have a weak point, is very beneficial. Shea's third in the league in time of possession this year. And the guys ahead of him are Luka and Cade. And I know Cade's turnover problems, although the last 2 games have been really good, Cade's turnover problems are well documented, and Luka also is not devoid of turnover issues himself. So that, alongside being such a good scorer who's amazing at driving, getting downhill, drawing fouls, 9 free throws a game at 87% is always going to be good offense, regardless of how people feel about it. And also 9 free throws a game isn't that crazy for someone averaging 34. Being such a master in the mid-range, someone who can control the pace of the game, speed up the game when it needs to be sped up, but can also play a half-court game. In the regular season, I don't see any holes in his offensive game. Like at all. Like I know he's not the elite floor processor that other people are, and I know he's not the greatest passer, but those things are only flaws insofar as teams are countering it. Like, does Shane need to hit Chet in the pocket if he can just snake the pick and roll and get to a free throw line jumping himself? No. The only reason you need to make the pocket pass is if you don't have the intermediate game to score for yourself. And this is why I said, was it maybe a couple weeks ago when we did the Western Conference episode and we spoke about Ant, and you asked me about Ant's playmaking or his intermediate game, which is more necessary to improve. And I said it was the intermediate game because, as far as I'm concerned, when you're a scorer of like the ilk of Shea or Ant or whoever else you want to throw out there, being a better scorer is always going to maximize your impact more than becoming a better playmaker. Because at the end of the day, like, unless you're Steve Nash, your playmaking value isn't going to match or exceed that of your scoring. And you only really need to create for others if you can't create for yourself with the same efficiency. And I think Shea can just create for himself so seamlessly. Speaking in the regular season confines, that it doesn't matter that he's a limited decision maker because there's no real drawback to that. Like this year in the regular season, very small sample, but OKC having 120, basically 121 offensive rating with him on the floor, and they have a 97 with him off the floor. Like, this is an OKC team that's playing with no J-Dub. Chet's missed a bunch of time. Caruso's missed games. Kayson's missed a game. Like, this right now, they last time I checked, they were beating the Pelicans by 615. And it was Shea, Kayson, Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Hartenstein, and Jalen Williams, the big, as the starting 5. And they were just blitzing the Pelicans. And like, because he's not going to get 30, 12, and 10, maybe it doesn't look like he's impacting offense the way some other people can. But I think he is. I genuinely think he's one of the most impactful offensive players we've ever seen, especially in the regular season. Now, in the playoffs, I do think some of the playmaking limitations can show up. And I think the biggest issue of that, the biggest reason for that, is because I don't think he can dissect coverages in the moment the way some of the other guys can. I'm mainly talking about Luka and Jokic when I say that. I don't think he can dissect what a defense is showing him in the moment the way they can. So I think you're probably prone from Shea to have bad games within series, especially early on, where a team will throw out a coverage that maybe he hasn't seen in the regular season, game 1 or game 2, and OKC might lose that game, or Shea might shoot poorly, or Shea will have a bad playmaking game. But then once you throw that coverage at him a second time or a third time, and he's got into the film room or whatever OKC do to prepare, or he's just looked at it and he looked at it back, and then he sees the coverage, you throw that at him again 2 or 3 times, he ends up dissecting the coverage, and all of a sudden he's a masterful playmaker. So I think where guys like Luka and Jokic can see a coverage in real time, and for the most part, they can pick it apart. Obviously, I think the OKC defense is a bit different. I don't really hold OKC's defense against many people because it's OKC's defense, but they can dissect it in real time. Okay, I'm about to make a parallel. I'm not comparing Shea to this player. I just want to, once again, I am not comparing Shea to this player.
Yeah, let him know. Let him know.
But you know, like the running joke, or maybe it's not even a joke, maybe it is reality, that like LeBron would use game 1 as a feel out game, like win or lose, and he would just see what a defense is throwing at them, and maybe he'll have 6 turnovers. You just see him what a defense will do when they run a pick and roll, blah blah, whatever the case may be. I think although LeBron could probably dissect that coverage within the game if he wanted to, he just actively chooses not to see basically the defenses, all of their hands. Let's see what they do. I think Shea can't react to it in the moment and dissect it the way LeBron would be capable of doing. But I think the concept is similar in that once Shea sees a coverage and then you throw the same thing at him again, he's probably figured it out. Like I look at the Denver series last year as an example. The first couple games, Denver threw the janky zone at him, Christian Brown kind of boxed on one-y, and Shea struggled for a little while. And then as the series got further and further along, Denver realized, okay, we don't have counters we can go to out of this zone. Shea figured out the zone, and all of a sudden, OKC are quite comfortable in these games. Even Indiana to a lesser extent. Shea starts the series, it goes fine. Indiana make an adjustment. Shea looks not lost, but poor playmaking, bad decisions, not being a willing passer. Then he figures it out, has a really good playmaking game. Indiana adjust, poor playmaking game. Then we go into a game 7, for example, where Indiana are throwing pretty much the same thing they threw him in game 6. He figures it out, and I think he had 12, 14 assists or whatever he had in game 7. Didn't shoot the ball well, and like shot variance is a real thing, whatever. But like that ability on a game-to-game basis where you can't throw the same thing at him and he's not going to figure it out. So I do think as series go longer, it probably becomes harder to beat Shea or OKC because there's only so many things you can throw at him, and eventually he'll figure it out. And he's basically banking on you don't have enough adjustments over 7 games to slow me down the whole time. And I'm gonna be honest, I probably agree with that. But I'd also wonder if Shea came up against the OKC defense that does have 18 million adjustments, how would he look? And that's like the fun of all of this.
That would be really fun to watch.
That's like my only drawback of Shea is that he doesn't have the on-the-fly counters that some of the other S-tier playmakers do. But in a playoff setting, I still don't think it's a big deal because of everything I outlined. So I do think he is pretty close to like a flawless offensive player in the sense that none of his flaws really affect the team. Not that he actually has no flaws. Like obviously he could be a better pull-up 3-point shooter. Obviously he could be a better passer. But that's not what I mean when I say he's pretty much a flawless offensive player. Pair that with being a clear positive on defense, controlling the possession battle, which I think is becoming more and more important, and people are recognizing the value of that. That's Shea's, I think, best claim to be the best player in the world. Is that he can counter pretty much everything. He doesn't really have holes in his offensive game, and he provides very strong defensive value, although he's not a defensive player of the year candidate or all defensive candidate. But yeah, that's my case for Shea. I just think he's really good, and I think some people kind of minimize him in these conversations. Maybe it's because he doesn't fill the stat sheet the way others do. I don't know. I don't know what the reason is, but I'm just higher on Shea. So yeah, that's Shea. Is there anything you want to say about Shea before we move on?
No, I think we covered Shea pretty well. I think what he's doing right now with OKC is extremely impressive. Just given the injuries, J Dub still hasn't played this year. Chet has missed the past few games. AJ Mitchell has gotten a lot better. So
Facts.
that is good to have, just more ball handling, especially with J Dub being out. That's something really good to have. And also prayers to Nikola Topic. He has a lot of issues going on right now, but hopefully he comes back and he can be another ball handler that OKC would need. But yeah, SGA has been amazing so far this season. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to win MVP again this year, but who knows?
We do have a super chat from, I think it was Teddy Hart. It was. He asked, how do you feel about a trade package centered around Fred VanVleet, injured but only on a 2-year deal, for Jrue Holiday from Portland, overpaid, very tail end of prime, but moves Rockets up another tier in the West to compete now? So what are your thoughts on basically Fred for Jrue Holiday?
I don't think Portland would do it, just because right now Scoot's hurt and Jrue has been contributing to this roster really well. He had I think he had like 13 assists the other day. And he's been
Sounds about right.
playing really well. He's been playing really well for this Trailblazers team, to where I don't think Portland is in a position where they would move off of Jrue. I understand they have he has a pretty steep contract.
He's averaging 18 and 9 right now.
Exactly. Like, I don't think they will move off of Jrue right now, because I'm pretty sure they see themselves as a playoff tier team, or the team that can find their way into the postseason. So I think they would probably keep Jrue. I wouldn't hate him in Houston. I would love him in Houston, but I don't think Portland is gonna move off of him.
Yeah, he's averaging 18 and 9 on a Portland team that's 4-2. That's had one of the toughest schedules in the league. We're talking about a team that started with Minnesota, lost that game in a nail biter and kind of closed it out. Then beat the Warriors, a team that many people view as one of the better teams in the West. Then lost a close game to the Clippers. Then beat the Lakers. That was the game Austin Reeves had 40, I think. Beat the Jazz. That's a game you expect them to win. And then beat the Nuggets the other night with a very, very strong defensive performance. And Jrue's been consistent throughout as a playmaker, as a shot maker, someone who can just slow the game down in the half court. And this is a Portland team that, as many people expected, is really good on defense. Really good. And they have a lineup that they go to that I really like. I don't know if there's a name for the lineup. I just call it the switch everything lineup, where you go Jrue, Denny, Tamani, Jeremy Grant. It was Matisse Thybulle, but he just missed the last game. So then you go with any one of they went with Shaden to close the game the other night, but but like you could go with like a Chris Murray, even a Blake Wesley to a certain extent. Like, just the switch everything lineup is really, really good. And then if you want to go with like the more traditional lineup, you have Donovan Clingan, who's one of the best rim protectors in the sport. I've really liked what they've got from basically everyone. Like, in some context, Robert Williams obviously came back, so Robert Williams could, in theory, go to that switch everything lineup. Except like my guy Yang Hansen, man, he does not look great, but who cares? It's okay.
That was a financial draft pick, so
yeah, it's already paid off. But yeah, I don't think Portland would be looking to trade Jrue. I just think they're really good. And then on the Houston side of things, it may not look conventional, but the offense is working. In fact, I'd argue the defense has been more disappointing than the offense. But like, the offense is working. They play a grinder out 90 style of ball. They don't play very fast. They crash the offensive glass like maniacs. They're shooting the three unsustainably well. I'll say that. They are shooting the three at a ridiculous efficiency, although I think they're bottom of the league or close to it in 3-point attempts, which is to be expected. I kind of saw that coming. Um, they're just they're just winning games in a very unconventional way for 2025. And like their big loss like was the double overtime to the Thunder, in which I said I don't want to take too much away from that because it's the Thunder defense. They then lost to the Pistons, but then from that moment on, they put Josh Okogie in the starting lineup, and Josh Okogie turned into a shooter. I don't know when that happened. Shout out to Josh Okogie. And they've looked really good. Yeah, they've looked really good. Going away from a lot of the zone stuff, trusting their guys to be able to guard and play man defense has been really good for them. And Men Thompson is starting to pick it up. Jabari's looked good the last couple of games. Yeah, I don't think Houston's really in a rush to make trades. We'll see where they look around December, January, February. But right now, I don't think either team would be rushing to make a trade. That's just my thoughts. And then one more super chat. This can lead us into our next player. Unlimited Z said, "How the hell is Giannis making threes? I just looked." So let's talk about Giannis. He is obviously one of the other guys who have a very strong claim for best player in the world. In fact, I'm running a poll right now of who is the best player in the world. Unfortunately, I couldn't get Wemby on the poll. I just picked the top 4 from last year because, well, Luka wasn't, but you know what I mean. Right now, Giannis is winning that poll of who the best player in the world is. So it seems like you guys have pretty much spoken. But John D, what's your thoughts on Giannis and how good he really is?
So when I'm at work and I'm working alone, I like to just think about stuff, just like challenge some of the things I think. And I was thinking, I'm like, a lot of people would consider Giannis's peak to be 2019 to 2021 or 2020 to 2022, around that early from late 2010s to early 2020s range. But then can we, like, with all of that being said, can we forget like what's happening right now offensively? Like, I think Giannis is by far the best he's ever been offensively over the past few seasons. And it's like, I can definitely understand why people are picking this to be Giannis's peak, even though you can think about the defense, and I understand where we're going with the defense, but this is somebody who's like peaking at low, like you say, low end estimate, top 20 offensive peaks of all time, top 15. I can make an argument for top 10. But and then when you look at it, it's like, my first thing I would say is Giannis doesn't shoot threes. He's not a shooter to where some people would make their argument on why he's not one of the best offensive players of all time or the 10 best offensive players of all time. But he generates really quality 3-point shots continuously. He's the best downhill, one of the best downhill players in the league, if not the best downhill player in the league. He is the best downhill player in the league, in my opinion. Top 3 transition player of all time. Getting to the rim, getting to the free throw line, really good in transition. He's generated top 10 transition offenses over like the past 8 years. I think one of them were outside of the top 10 in transition. And it's not like Brooke Lopez and Chris Middleton going running up and down the floor with him. I think that's like a one-man transition army. And I think that can lead to him being one of the 10 best offensive peaks of all time, especially when you talk about how he's gotten better as a passer and playmaker, to where he has to command multiple bodies when he's around that elbow down area in the post, playing in pick and roll. He can find cutters. He can make skip passes. He can throw lobs. And again, it's getting to the point where it's like they're setting screens for him at the half court line for him to build that speed to get to the rim. And that's going to command 3 or 4 bodies at a time. And it's like, he can make those passes now. He can make those passes now more than he ever could. And that was my biggest question. Like, how far up do you get before you like, he's better offensively than Giannis is right now? That was my biggest question. I do think that would be like my best, like that would be my case for him, because he's peaking right now offensively at top 10, at a top 10 level. I don't know if I have him top 10 yet. I haven't really sat there and thought about it, like if I would put him there. but I can understand it. And then there's the defense. Even though he isn't as good as he used to be, I still think when Giannis is fully bought in on the defensive side of the ball, he's still really good defensively. He's still a really good rebounder, and the fact that he could rebound and run straight into transition, um, that makes it much easier for the offense as well. So I think Giannis has a real claim to be the best player in the world. I think he probably has I don't know where his case would be, but it's higher than a few guys on this list.
Not to put you on the spot, but when we did our top 10 offensive players with the Hoop Venue podcast, shout out to Tyler and Sean again, of the modern era, post 3-point line, you had Steph, Jokic, MJ, LeBron, Magic, Shaq, Steve Nash, Kobe, KD, and Bird.
Mm-hmm.
That was your 10. Are you comfortable saying Giannis is better than any of those guys offensively?
All right, I feel like this is like, all right, now before we even go any further, I feel like to me, I've kind of gone a lot lower on one of these guys on this list. Two of these guys, but one of them would still be in the top 10. I've gotten a lot lower on number 33 and number 13. I'm not racist, but I've gone a lot lower on those two guys over the time to where Giannis could be over Larry Bird. Why not? I could understand putting Giannis over Larry Bird.
So you would have, just to clarify, if you were to take Bird off, Giannis would be the next up, not a Luka Doncic. Not
No,
Shea,
I don't. Hey, I think there's
not a
multiple
James
different
Harden.
guys. Because I put this on Twitter a couple months ago. How many of these guys do you think have a case to be in that top 10 offensive peak of all time? I'm gonna just rattle them off. Dirk, does he have a case?
I think I could make
come on.
I think I could make the argument, but it would be, I think it's a weaker argument. Like, I don't think it would be a strong one, but I do think you could make the case.
Harden?
Yes, I think you can make the case.
Embiid?
I'm gonna say no, you can't make the case because you have no playoff sample to work with.
Yeah, you really don't.
But my heart is saying I know what I saw. Like that's what my heart is saying. But in reality, you don't have the playoff sample to work with.
Another sneaky one, Jerry West.
Oh, absolutely. Oscar Robertson too, just to save you time.
Yep. Another thing that I'm this close to not ranking them. I'm not ranking them no more. But we're gonna leave them where they at. D Wade.
Similar to Dirk, that would be a weaker case, but I think I could make it.
And the last one, CP3.
Yes, I think you can make the case. Yeah.
I think Giannis is in that category where these guys could be in that conversation. And to be honest, I could really listen to someone if they say one of those guys have them in the 10. Oh, and Luka and Shea are in that conversation as well. But again, I think it would have to be, for me, it would be Luka, how he's playing right now, and if he sustains it for like the next 2 or 3 seasons, because I think Luka, now 3-game sample size, don't get me wrong. Luka's playing the best basketball I've ever seen from him at this point, to me, just because he's back to getting to the rim, and he's one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. Now, don't look at the percentages right now, even though he's shooting 38% on above the break threes on 11 attempts a game. But don't worry about that either. I think it's just the corner threes. I don't think he's made a corner 3 yet, and he's only taking like 1 a game. But still, I think all of those guys I just named, I would listen to if you say, "Oh, I have him in my top 10 offensive peaks ever." And to be honest, maybe I'm just not as high on Larry Bird anymore. But
yeah, that seems like a conversation for another day. I also heard you disrespect 13, and I'm gonna leave it alone. But that does sound like maybe we do have to revisit these lists because
yeah, I was thinking about that. I'm like, bro,
if you want to know where we had everyone, I do have a playlist on the channel of all of the HoopTalk top 10s. So if you want to find it, it will be called Top 10 Offensive Players of All Time is probably what I called it, but it was post 3-point line. You can see what I thought, what Sean thought, what Tyler thought, and what John D thought. I probably don't agree with my list in its entirety, but that's also like back to the point of like I think a lot of these guys are close, and it really does come down to preference on the day, or like especially of the older players. Like sometimes there was maybe not as much now because I think I've watched like so much of these guys that not much is really like changing my opinion. But like a couple years ago, like you end up finding like a rogue portion of, for example, Larry Bird games that you hadn't seen before from like 1987, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, that might change your perspective a little bit. So it's like, I don't know, it's difficult. A lot of these things, they're not really set in stone, although they're on the internet till the end of time or till whenever YouTube gets rid of them. We probably could revisit this, and I think our list probably would change. But anyway, my opinions on Giannis. I think yes, this is the best he's ever been offensively. The names you put like on the fringes of that top 10 is probably, I think, good company for him. It's just, I think he probably is the best transition scorer at least ever. Just because the combination of effectiveness and then willingness, I think, is what separates him from some other people. It's just like anytime he has the opportunity in transition or semi-transition, he's going. And I think that's something that can't be ignored. I think this year, to start the year, I think it was 8.6 transition possessions a game, shooting 79% from the field. Like, he's guaranteeing you points. Like, literally guaranteeing you points in transition. The ability to evade defenders, the way he collapses defenses, he's drawing multiple bodies on a consistent possession to possession basis. He's improved as a passer year on year. Interesting timing considering he just threw a pass off the rim yesterday. But like still, he has improved as a passer year upon year. This year, he's decided to add in the Moses Malone DLC, where he's crashing the offensive glass like a maniac, which I think is adding even more value. I think he's averaging 4 offensive rebounds a game. I don't know whether that actually ranks in the league, but I have a feeling it's very high. Let me check. Obviously you got like Steven Adams and like whoever, he's probably really high, but other than that,
Donovan Klinga's up there too. He's a really good offensive.
So Steven Adams, look at me, 5.4 offensive rebounds a game. But Steven Adams, Donovan Klingon, Walker Kessler, Jalen Duren, and Giannis is the top 5. Like Giannis putting himself in a group of these pure interior big fives adds so much value, especially when he's like so much better at finishing around the rim than all of these guys are. Like he's a legitimate putback threat. These guys are more, in certain cases, get the rebound, kick out. Whereas Giannis is going to finish the play like 9 times out of 10. Just dominant around the rim. The mid-range game that he added last year, or that looked more refined last year, hasn't really translated early on this year, but it's still something that I do think is in his arsenal. I think you still see the willingness to shoot it. I do think it might just be like early season, not shooting the greatest percentages. But he's just getting to the rim with such regularity. This is some per cleaning the glass. 74% of Giannis's shots this year are within 4 feet. That's up from 61% last year. Like, it's really ridiculous what he's doing. Like, 3 out of every 4 shots are directly at the rim. And he's arguably the best finisher we've ever seen, if not in the top 3 with Bron and Shaq. Just that consistent pressure alongside the offensive rebounding, the ability to push in transition, the passing improvement. He's really like unstoppable offensively. Like, just call a spade a spade. He's really unstoppable. The only like downside is like the free throw shooting, which although he's getting to the line 11 times a game, he is only shooting 64%, which is still like, in the grand scheme of things, it's still efficient offense, but it's not what you want from the free throw line. You do obviously want 75, 80, 85. But that's really the only downside. He's also doing this while only averaging just under 3 turnovers a game, which is wildly impressive. And obviously major floor raising he's doing this year. Defensively, I don't think he's the same as he used to be. I don't really think it's close. That's more so just how high I am on what he used to be defensively. But there are possessions in which he can dial it in. There's like he got a chase down block on DeMontis yesterday, which was really impressive. I just think where you see like the biggest decline is just if Giannis has to make 3-4 rotations on a possession, he's just not going to do it. Like he might make the first couple, but once you make him have to make a third rotation, like at that point, he's probably just not going to do it. It's going to be lazy. It's not going to be a great closeout. But like for the most part, he's still going to be good on defense. He's still going to provide a lot of value on defense, especially as a rim protector. His ability to rebound on the defensive glass, the threats, just as someone who's a monster transition defender, definitely puts people off. Just his ability to be in the right place at the right time as a roamer. All of those things do still add to his defensive value, where I would say he's probably the second best defender of this group. Like obviously Wemby's one, and then it will come down to like, is Giannis consistently engaged enough to where you say he's better than Shea, who though Shea's not as good and can't make the high leverage plays that Giannis can, but Shea's probably more engaged consistently, but he also has better help around him. So blah blah blah. Like I'll probably say Giannis is second. I'll probably say Wemby, gargantuan gap, Giannis, Shea, and then the other two we'll talk about later. So like all of that, it's like a very clear two-way best player in the world case. And the two-way is I'm one of the 15, we'll say once again, low end estimate. I'm one of the 20 best offensive players to ever live who still provides strong defensive value. And I'm able to floor raise, but I'm also able to play away from the basketball as he's showing this year, and still provide elite offense. And no one can actually stop me from doing what I want to do every night. That's a very clear, cut and dry best in the world case. And he's shooting 68% from the field. Like he just doesn't miss. Like he just doesn't miss shots. He misses 6 shots a game. And I know this isn't how basketball works, but he misses 6 shots a game. And then he rebounds 4 misses a game on the offensive side of the ball. They're not his misses, but he rebounds 4 of his and his team's misses. So like of his 6 misses, he's recovering 4 like over the course of the game. So like he's really only missing 2 shots a game. Like really only missing 2 shots. Like he's the amount of offensive value you get from that is like huge. I just think Giannis is unstoppable, and I think it's bittersweet that it's taken for him to average 34, 13, and 7 on 68% shooting for people to like, including myself, because I've been on the side of I think Jokic is the clear best player in the world. To like acknowledge the greatness that we're seeing in front of our eyes. He's just, I don't know if there's anything more I can say. Like he's also shooting 62% from 3 to unlimited Superchat that he sent earlier. Now, is that sustainable? No, but it's cool while it's lasting. Yeah, I don't really know. The case against Giannis is more so theoretical than reality, I think. Like in theory, the wall stops him, but in reality, it doesn't.
Do you think him not being available in the postseason these past few years? I mean, he was available last year, but then like two out of the 3 past years, he just hasn't been available. Do you think
that's also disappointing? I don't think that's an indictment on how good you are. I think that's more like you are talking to like the biggest Embiid guy you probably know, so that's probably part of it. So like I'm not gonna hold that against him in terms of how good he is. I do think that obviously hurts value. Like in the playoffs, you want to be there. I guess like the big, like if I had to nitpick, and this is like major nitpick, the defensive motor isn't as high as it used to be, but if it was, he would be the best player in the world and it wouldn't even be close. And then he's probably the only one who I think would struggle to scale up his minutes. Mm-hmm. And like if we're talking about nitpicking or splitting hairs, would I rather have Giannis for 34 minutes, like that can get to 36, 37 in the playoffs? Or would I rather have Shea for 42 minutes or Jokic give me 44 minutes? Like that's probably the only like real drawback I have is like if you make Giannis play 9 straight minutes, he's going to be calling for a sub. Like he's just going to, like we can just watch the games. That's what happens. Whereas these guys, I could probably trust to give me a 12-minute stint when I need it, more consistently than Giannis can. So that's like, so like on a per minute basis, he might be providing equal value. But if the value is equal on a per minute basis, but one player plays 3 or 4 more minutes over the course of a season, over the course of a series, that does add up. So that would probably be my like biggest drawbacks with Giannis. But at the end of the day, like I said, like all of these guys are so amazing. Any criticisms or separations are going to be splitting hairs. Is there anything else you want to say about Giannis before we move on?
I think we got it. I can still talk
Um,
myself into him being top 10 offensive peak of all time, though. Like, I think he
Looking
got
at the
that.
list I made, so just I had Jokic 1, MJ 2, Steph 3, Bron 4, Magic 5, Steve Nash 6, Shaq 7, Bird 8, Kobe 9, KD 10. I would struggle to get him into the top 10. I know I could make the argument. I would struggle, especially knowing that this is a list that doesn't have Luka on it, doesn't have Shea on it, doesn't have James Harden on it. But the fact that of all of these names, unless I'm like, he's what? The third? He'd be the third best defender of all of these guys? Fourth, maybe?
What are we looking at? Because I know you
So
got
like
Shaq in there, Brian,
yeah,
MJ.
2000 Shaq, he's a better defender. Like Shaq's 2000 Shaq's a better defender than Giannis. If you think Bron is a better offensive player than this current Giannis, then Bron would be 2. And then the other one would be maybe MJ. And like that's a big maybe. So like he's like the fourth maybe of all of these guys. And then the other names I said, Luka, Shea, James Harden. He's obviously better than them. So like being like a legitimate two-way player while being in a conversation with these guys, albeit on the lower ends, is still amazing value. So yeah, Giannis is just amazing, and he has been amazing for 8 years now. It's been a long time.
Yeah, since like 17, 18, he's been playing at
Yeah,
like
it's been very, very long time. The longevity is getting ridiculous and underrated, and he's not even 31 yet. I think he turns 31 in December. Anyway, before we move on to the last 2 players, we do have a couple super chats. Our Blazers aficionado, TSG Piccolo, said Blake Wesley getting hurt will hamper the Blazers' second unit so much. I don't know what his diagnosis is. Matisse is out at least 4 to 6 weeks with a UCL tear. Yeah, Blake Wesley has been amazing in terms of pushing the pace for the Blazers. And defensively, I've really liked what I've seen. Offensively, he's kind of limited outside of just being a really good driver and having some of the craziest straight line speed in the NBA. But just being able to push pace, play defense, hustle, play hard, that is something that you're missing, especially with no Scoot. Like your backup point guard minutes are going to be kind of shaky. And obviously Matisse coming back and then being out instantly again is always disappointing, especially knowing how much of a defensive playmaker he can be. But we'll see what's going on with the Blazers. And then Teddy Hart means we're probably going to talk about Jokic next. Just realized Joker is the only player in history who's been the consensus best in the world and isn't known as a great defender, though he's better than his reputation suggests. Maybe Magic, but in my opinion, was never consensus. So let's talk about Nikola Jokic. What are your thoughts on Nikola Jokic? He's probably had the most disappointing start to the season of all of these guys. But how do you feel about him and his stature and all of those good old things?
I think we came into this season kind of like knowing that he wasn't going to average as far as points per game wise as much as he did last year. I just don't think he has that. I don't think he has to do that this season with all the talent he has around him. But as far as he's the best playmaking center or passing center the league has ever seen, in my opinion, he's still one of the best scorers in the league. Like there was a point in time last year where I thought he was the best scorer in the league. I'm moved off of that about halfway into the year, but I think with the shot making, the post play, even though I don't think he's as good as a shot maker as people would think, but I still do think he's a good shot maker. He has some of the best touch around the rim, and I think it's really hard to guard like the 2-man games he has had with Murray in the postseason. One of the best postseason performers we've seen, and like how people are trying to like I wouldn't say go at Jokic, but kind of like discredit him, even though we've seen like the best team to ever guard Jokic and then like the best player to guard Jokic and Zubas right the series before. But there's not much answers for what he can do. Like he's one of the best post players we've ever seen, one of the best offensive peaks we've ever seen. I've had him at 2, but the ability to play off the ball as well, like making him and Russ work with a 2-man game earlier in the season last year, I think was really impactful. Just being able to position himself as a roller and also being a really good short roll decision maker. Like there was moments in the OKC series last year where he's playing in the post and it's like he's backing down hard, but it's like Chet is kind of frozen where he is because the second he kind of like commits to guarding Jokic, Jokic can make the lob pass to Aaron Gordon, which I think is extremely valuable, just having multiple different passes you can make while playing in the post. One of the greatest passes of all time. I'm not just talking about assist numbers, but like reading the court and being able to make the passes, like skip passes, bounce passes, lob passes. Obviously, like the elephant in the room with Jokic is the defense, which I don't think he's as bad as some people make it out to be. I still do think he's not. I don't think he's great, or I don't think he's good, but he has participated in good defenses. Last year, the Nuggets were a good playoff defense. In 23, the Nuggets were a good playoff defense, but I do think you do get a little like kind of like collapsed or caught into like one or two different schemes where it's like you can throw a zone or you would have to hide Jokic from playing in the perimeter, or you would have to take away the rim as much as possible because Jokic doesn't really provide any rim protection. So I do think when you're playing against teams to where you have to you can't play drop and pick and roll. For example, like when they played the Timberwolves last year and the Timberwolves were just getting whatever they wanted out of pick and roll because you can't put Jokic in the pick and roll. Like it makes it much harder to play defense with Jokic on the floor. So that's that's my biggest drawback with Jokic is just the defensive side of the ball. And the shot making in the postseason these past few years haven't been great. Especially against like more physical teams, he starts to like ramp up his volume, and that doesn't necessarily help as much. And I don't think he I don't think he positions himself the best in the post either. Like we talk about how the guards or the perimeter players in Denver can't make entry passes. I don't think Jokic is making it much easier with his positioning at times as well. These are obviously nitpicks that I have with Jokic, except the defense. I don't think the defense is a nitpick. I think that's a valid concern, but these are all obviously nitpicks, but I do think he's one of the greatest, if not the greatest offensive player of all time and peak of all time. But when you are that limited defensively, I can understand why people aren't just like why some people are like hesitant to give him the best player in the world.
Yeah, I think when we did the offensive players list, I had Jokic at number 1. I then a couple months later on PC said I probably don't agree with that anymore. But I definitely think he's still in that realm. I still think he's probably a tier 1 offensive player ever with Mike, Bron, Steph, Magic. Yeah, we'll keep it at that. I do think he's still in that tier. He is still, like you said, the best passing big ever. In my opinion, one of the 5 best passes ever. Probably 4. Yeah, I probably have him as one of the 4 best passes ever. Really good on the offensive glass. I think he has the best touch ever, and I don't hesitate when I say that. This is someone I think he's shooting 70% on hooks to start the year, 67% on floaters. Year after year, he's towards the top of the league in those categories. His touch is just out of this world. Then really good post scorer. Can shoot the ball. Doesn't provide like the elite spacing value that maybe the percentages suggest. In large part because he's so dangerous downhill, teams are probably going to concede the 3 before they concede the drive, the up fake, and get by you into the floater stuff. But really good screen setter. Is heliocentric, but not in the typical sense of he dominates time of possession more so than he dominates touches. And I do think that does have its own values and drawbacks. The value is that everyone is getting a touch of the ball, everyone's involved consistently. The drawback is that you kind of limit the guys around you outside of like Jamal Murray, their ability to initiate because everything is running through you as like a hub, as a fulcrum. So maximizing shot creators can be difficult, but having play finishers, having guys who can knock down shots, and then one other ball handler like a Jamal Murray does kind of give you this otherworldly ceiling um, offensively, especially in the regular season. Right now, he's doing the I'm not shooting the ball gimmick. Whether that's him coasting in the regular season, whether that's him trying to get his teammates involved or whatever. I do think it's definitely limiting his regular season value. Like if we're talking about just his value this season, I definitely think it's been below these other guys. But I don't think it's a sign that he's forgotten how to score the ball. So the touch is still there, the post up stuff is still there. He can shoot the ball though. I think he's shooting like 20-something% early this year. Mainly damaged by the Warriors game, which is the great thing about using percentages in these small samples. Defensively, yeah, I think it's weird. I think there's two polar opposite sides. You've got the side that I think underrate Jokic on defense and I like he's just the worst defensive player ever. And then you've got the side that tries to convince you that Jokic is actually a good defender. And it's like I just don't think either one of those people are right. I think he's a high IQ defender with physical limitations. Physical and motor limitations. And I think that probably pushes him on the side of negative in the regular season for the most part, especially last year, and then a positive in the playoffs. And that's the line he hovers around. He's going to be a 3 to a 4 in the regular season if the motor's not high. He can be a 6.5 in the playoffs if the motor's revving high. And then offensively, the question marks are because of he's a big, how do you get him the ball in advantageous situations, which separates him from a guy like Giannis? Because Giannis is like a legitimate initiator. Like Giannis can get the ball off the glass and go. Jokic is more, if I get the ball off the glass, I'm going to throw it outlet, which is extremely valuable, by the way. Amazing transition offense. Or he's going to leave it off to a guard, dribble handoff, screens, all of that stuff. And Denver have so many counters designed into their system, and Jokic is so good at finding the slightest holes that it makes it work. But when you do get into a playoff setting and teams are more focused on taking away cuts, you do see a lot of those easy duckings at the rim. The cuts do start to disappear, and you see a lot more of Jokic's playmaking lends itself more to the 3-point shot. And I'm not entirely sure that's advantageous. So there are drawbacks to like having one of the best passers ever who's not an elite ball handler who can just create offense out of nothing the way some other people can. But there's also the positives of the post-up playmaking where that collapses a defense, what that leads to. So it's like it's always going to be a difficult thing to pass out. It's why I think a lot of these guys are close. I think his case to be the best in the world is obviously just saying you still think he's the best offensive player on the planet. You think the only guy close to him would have to be like a Luka Doncic, and you think Jokic's defense is less detrimental than Luka's. Like that would be the avenue for his claim. And I think that's a valid claim. I don't think it's way off base. I think right now the timing of it is tough because Jokic has obviously not started this regular season the way you would expect, like the best player in the world to start. He's only averaging 20 points, 14 rebounds, and 11 assists. Only shooting 59% from the field. Like, it just stinks. But he is still like one of the 5 best scorers on the planet. He is still, in my opinion, the best passer on the planet. Still a really good rebounder on both sides of the ball. I just think this season I wouldn't have him number 1 if we're doing a 2-week power rankings. But I do think he is still well and truly in that conversation. And if you're higher on the defense than I am, and you think he is the best offensive player ever, you probably are on the side of he's still clearly the best player in the world. Because when you have the best offensive player ever, probably makes sense at the best player in the world. I just probably am lower on his offense than I was 7-8 months ago. So that's why I think it's more of a conversation now than I think it was back then. Also, I think the ascension of Wemby, me becoming higher on Shea over time, and then Luka being healthy kind of just muddies up the equation. But I think this goes to the point of this is one of the most talented top 5s we've ever seen, where we're talking about Wemby being the fifth best player in the world, or Luka being the fifth best player in the world, or Shea or whoever. Like, it's just, that's ridiculous. Any other time, these guys are not the fifth best players on the planet for the most part. But is there anything else you want to say about Jokic before we move on to your darling as the last player?
You know, let's get off Jokic and let's go ahead and move to Luka.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I'm gonna give you the floor. Talk to me about Luka Doncic.
Lakers fans, let's just all come together as one and thank Nico Harrison for a trade that continues to get worse and worse. I appreciate you bringing Luka Doncic to the purple and gold where he always belonged. Luka Doncic, I think his claim to being the best player in the world, I think someone that generates that much offense out of a really like strict play style, which is very heliocentric, very pick and roll heavy, very isolation heavy, is really hard to do, especially with having to do it with like a defensively slanted roster like he had to do in Dallas, especially like that back end of the season they went to the finals. That was a very defensive slanted roster, but even then, like a lot of very pick and roll heavy players have some limitations to their game to where Luka can make the counter to a lot of pick and roll coverages. Can't really play drop because he's one of the best pull up 3-point shooters in the league. And he's gotten much better as a 3-point shooter throughout his career as well. Any pass he can make, especially out of the post or out of pick and roll or out of isolation or just interior passes or being blitzed, he can make the reads, whether that's finding the right pocket pass to the roller or making a skip pass all the way to the corner or creating a lob out of nothing. And also making center's jobs much easier. Roll and run. Just screen and run. That's all you have to do. It's easy. It's easy. Like playing with Luka as a big man, as an athletic big man at that, is really easy. It's because Luka is going to command two. And if you don't send two, he's probably going to score the ball himself. This is someone who has a claim to be the best passer and scorer in the league. I think he has a claim for both of those. I think with him getting to the rim this season a lot more, I think that's furthered his case as well. The ability to finish through contact. And I think him and Shea are like similar when it comes to like absorbing contact. Like for Shea, it keeps his dribble alive. For Luka, he can finish through contact where he has a really good touch around the rim. He can get to the free throw line. He plays out of the post really well. He has this little thing where he bumps you one time, a little step back, leaner off the left foot, cash, string music every time. Really good touch around the rim. Can get to the free throw. If Luka was a better free throw shooter, I don't think the best scorer in the world would be that close. Like, and I think you could say that about SGA. Like, if he was a better 3-point shooter, the best scorer in the world wouldn't be close. But I think Luka has a really good claim to being the best scorer in basketball. He's one of the best pull-up 3-point shooters in the league. You can't play him one-on-one anymore. Like, yeah, it was cute last year. It was cute. Everybody thought they was doing something because they was playing Luka one. Look at me. I'm Rudy Gobert. I could guard Luka one-on-one. That shit ain't happening this year, gang. It's not happening this year. It's not happening. We're getting back to the rim. We're getting back to the rim. And if you send two, I'm making the right pass every single time. Now, there's times where he might be a little too like aggressive with his passing, or he's like, that wasn't the best pass to make, but you think you can make that pass, and I'm okay with it. But I think that would be Luka's claim to like best in the world, just because he does have like a very strict type of play style where he's playing out of pick and roll continuously in isolation, continuously, but he's still able to generate really good offense. And also you put out a tweet that I thought was really interesting. Steph and Luka horse.
Oh,
I think that would be pretty cool to watch. I think that would be
I would
very
love
cool
to
to
watch
watch.
that. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think again with this is back to back now. The elephant in the room is defense. You can't just ignore defense, and I think that's the first thing a lot of people would bring up when talking about Luka and Jokic as best in the world cases. Even though I think this is kind of similar to Jokic, to where people see see some clips of Luka or see some clips of Jokic and be like, oh, this guy is like the worst defender since sliced bread. And I don't think they're that bad. I don't think they're great, but I don't think they're that bad. Like there's times where Luka will play a passing lane every now and then, or he'll absorb a bump on a drive and force a turnover. But I don't think he's a good defender. But I think that would probably be like the biggest drawback. And there seems to be this archetype of player that guards Luka really well. The strong, mobile wing, the Lou Dorts, the Jalen Browns, that give Luka some trouble. Um, that's also an issue as well, just the physicality and being able to match your strength and your speed. Also while being very active with your hands and things of that nature. But I think that would be Luka's claim, in my opinion.
I've seen them give Lou Dort hell. But Jalen Brown's of the world for sure. Um, yeah, I think Luca's case is quite simple. It's just it stems from believing he's the best on-ball player in the league by a significant margin, who has the ball more than everyone else as well. So you basically just say, I'm the best with the ball. He has the ball. There you go. Best player. By far the most high volume pick and roll player in the NBA. That's where you start giving credit to coaching. While the league is going further away from pick and roll, the Lakers leaning all the way into pick and roll. Because when you have Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves, two of the best pick and roll players in the NBA, run pick and roll. Crazy concept. Just so good at picking it apart, especially now. Now, do I think there's some unsustainability in his 2-point scoring? Yes. He's shooting 86% on floaters. I think he's shooting 78% on his 2-point jump shots. He's shooting 79% at the rim, I think. I just had the numbers pulled up. Where are we at? Okay. He is shooting 78.6% on his 2-point jump shots, 85.7% on his floaters, and 78.6% on his layups. Yeah, I don't think all of that is sustainable. Let's just call a spade a spade. So do I think the scoring is going to come back down to earth somewhat? Yes. But by coming back down to earth, I mean, the guy's averaging 45. Okay. It didn't take a genius to figure out that probably wasn't going to maintain. Getting to the free throw line 14 times a game, elite at drawing fouls, extremely physical, extremely strong. As the quickness has come back this year, just impossible to stay in front of with his deception as a ball handler. He's impossible to kind of deal with. The only like downside is I think when you are as high volume as a pick and roll player as Luka is, and this once again, this is kind of like the Giannis area where it's like more theoretical than reality. You kind of play into the defense's hands in terms of like the defense dictates how you play. Where if the defense is switching everything, you're playing into like Luka isolating is what the defense wants you to do. Or if they're playing it straight up, then obviously they're setting it up for Luka to be a playmaker or whatever. So like Luka kind of plays into the defense's hands, but at the same time, he's so good at just doing that anyway, especially this year. Like it's not a problem. It's more so just like once again a nitpick. And do I think he's this good of a 2-point scorer? If he is, then he got it. Like I don't know what to say. He just got it. If he's not, then I do think you can run into some of the similar problems of last year and like the finals in 24, where if Luka is just consistently playing in isolation, looking for his own shot because teams are switching, that can take your teammates out of rhythm, that can limit your playmaking. I think we've seen Luka and Jokic's playmaking, I think, have both been limited in the playoffs the last few times we've seen them. Jokic last year against OKC, Luka last year against the Timberwolves. When these teams are switching a lot, that kind of takes away from Luka's playmaking because he goes into like this full-on, I'm going to score one-on-one, I'm going to mismatch hunt and get my own. And then you're not getting the playmaking value that makes Luka so potent as a dual threat. Boston did the same thing. But like Boston is similar to OKC in the sense that like I don't really hold it against you what you do against Boston because they were just so good. But I do think like when you play that much pick and roll, it's just that's a cost of that, which I think is why the league is going away from it. Defensively, I think all the question marks are still there. He's not going to make second and third efforts consistently. Against certain matchups, he's going to be able to keep the ball in front. He's not going to provide much rim protection. He's going to be able to get deflections because he is a really smart defender. He seems to be an active communicator from what I see. Um, but overall, it's like he's just so good at what he does, and he does it so like he does so well that the flaws don't really stick out the way they would from like a mere mortal doing the same thing. But I do still have like those limited concerns. I do think in a larger sample, we'd have to see how it looks. How does it look when you come up against not an OKC defense, but just defenses that have size and length that maybe there aren't mismatches is easy to attack. Um, how do you balance your scoring and playmaking? Some of the decision making can be questionable at times. I think you alluded to that with some of the bad passes he throws. He's not as hell bent on pushing pace like some other people are. That gets the easy opportunities in transition. He's more of a half court player, so like you don't get the maximal value of transition possessions. So like all of those nitpicks, I do think start to like chip away at value slightly. But at the end of the day, still has a very strong claim to be the best player in the world because of his mastery and pick and roll, because of how good of an on-ball player he is, because of the combination of scoring and passing, and then the willingness to score is like the complete opposite of Jokic. Jokic is doing the no-shot gimmick. Luka's doing like the anti-no-shot gimmick. So it's like that scoring aggression is extremely valuable. And I think only him and Shea kind of, and Embiid when healthy, but like, once again, leave him out of this. Are like the only ones who have that scoring aggression. Giannis too, to an extent, but he gasses himself out. And I think that's a special trait to have. So yeah, I think Luka's case to be the best in the world is saying you think he's the best offensive player on the planet. And that you think he's not that bad of a defender, but more so just based on the offensive stuff, the scoring and passing combination, the shot making, which I would argue is are the three best shot makers in the league Steph, KD, and Luka?
Yeah, I think Luka is in that category. Yeah,
Because it's ridiculous the shots he can make.
yeah.
So like those things in conjunction probably give him like that best in the world claim. But I think we did a good job of illustrating what makes all of these guys so great without tearing down anyone, without saying why one of them actually sucks. And actually just appreciated greatness when it's in front of us, which I think is something we should do more of as a community. If you think Luka's the best, I think you can do that without explaining why that means Jokic, Giannis, Shea, and them suck. If you think Shea's the best, I think you can do that without saying Giannis, Luka, whoever suck. And that's what I tried to do here today. I think that's what we tried to do here today. Hopefully it was successful. We do have one more super chat before we get out of here. It's from the Trib One. Said it's clearly Wemby for best in the world, right? What are we waiting on when teams are just foregoing driving or cutting because he exists? And he is basically unguardable on offense. His impact is almost impossible. Yeah, we spoke about that earlier. It's difficult to quantify with Wemby. Like, how much is he impacting the floor defensively? And is it more than like we've seen in recent years? I don't know the answer to that. And I think that's what makes all these conversations so subjective. But he definitely has a case, as we alluded to earlier. We spoke about Wemby for about 20 minutes today. So
Yeah, he definitely does have a case, and I'm waiting to see that Wemby versus OKC matchup. Like, I really want to see him against a healthy OKC team, though. Like,
it's in December, right?
Yeah, I think that's something I'm going to be really looking forward to. And the Wemby versus Jokic matchups are always fun too, so that's going to be fun to watch. But I would really like to see how he plays in a postseason setting. That's what I would be waiting on. Like, if Wemby continues this throughout the year and then has like a really good postseason run, I'm going into the season saying he's the best in the world. But
okay.
But it depends. It depends. I think all of these guys, like we've been talking about for the last hour and a half, all of these guys have real cases to be the best in the world. And to me, it depends on what you value more than what you don't value, or what you value slightly more than other things. So I think all of these guys could have a good claim to being the best player in the world. So it was fun talking about them, though. It was fun talking, because all of these guys are very entertaining to watch, very good basketball players, so it was definitely fun to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. I think people are still going to have their thoughts and they're actually going to tell us why we're wrong and why their guy's clearly the best. But once again, it does come down to what you value. Um, Everyone values different things. A lot of this is subjective, no matter how objective people try to make it. So whatever you value, you're probably gonna have a different top five to what I might have, or what John D might have, or what other people in the comments might have. Overall, it doesn't really matter as long as you can say what you value, why you value it. That's it. There's no real right or wrong. Um, but anyway, before we get out of here, John D, where can everyone find you?
You guys can find me over at the Buzzer Sports, where the college basketball season starts pretty soon. For those who do not know, the best part about my basketball analysis is my scouting. If you guys want to take a check, if you guys want to check out some of my scouting videos and mock drafts and scouting reports and top 10 offensive players, top 10 guards, all that stuff, and then look at what's happening in the league right now, hey, you never know. But the 2026 draft is going to be very interesting, and this is going to be a very good college basketball season, and I will be covering a lot of the prospects. We also have a lot of series coming up on the channel as well. So at the Buzzer Sports on YouTube, the Buzzer Room on Playback, which we will be trying to stream a little bit more, especially now that I'm verified. I think Mars, you're verified too. I noticed you made an account, so but yeah, at the Buzzer Sports.
Yeah, as John D said, I do have a verified playback account. I can't tell you there'll be a consistent schedule, but you could follow the room if you want. The links are in the description to mine and John D's playback rooms. So yeah, if you want to follow that, you can. Obviously, you can find me on PC during the week. Find us here every Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern, talking that real hoop talk, or we're trying to at least. But anyway, we'll see you when we see you. Thank you guys for watching. We appreciate all the support. I think we had about 290 in here at one point. So shout out to you guys. But yeah, we will see you next week. Merry Christmas and